welcome to another episode of the Tabletop for Two podcast. I'm your host, Brad Van Vutt.
I'm your co-host, Emily Van Vutt.
We're laughing because we're right now wrestling with the fan on our computer.
It's trolling us
which is
so
trolling
terribly.
us very much right now. Hopefully that does not become a problem as we're sitting here recording. Thank you for those of you that reached out to us, by the way, during our unintentional hiatus. That we just have been playing a lot of stuff
we
lately.
haven't had time, like you said, sometimes life gets in the way. We've had illnesses. I'm still currently ill because we have a little germ bucket that we call a son who brings us home everything. And yeah, it's been work and everything has just been a little crazy lately.
Yeah, but we have a fun show planned. A few new games to talk about. We also thought it would be a good time to revisit our top 10 two-player game list that we made about over 2.5 years ago to this point. It's very different than what it was before, for sure.
I'm sorry.
And we actually have our own individual top 10 lists, which we'll go through, which is a little bit different than we did before as well. So we'll get to that in the back end of the show. Real quick bit of housekeeping. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Tabletop for Two. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, or any other podcast that you choose. We have a BGG Guild number 2623. Make sure you add us in there. And of course, we are always soliciting episode topic suggestions that you want to hear us talk about. If there's any two-player specific topics you want to hear us talk about in the show, then drop us a line and we will certainly
if you have any games that we might have gone over in the past before you started listening, that you want some thoughts on, we can do that too.
Cool. So let's start with what was an incredible probably this might be one of my biggest disappointments ever.
Fail that we've had thus far.
Oh, this was really sad. So to give you the backstory, we enjoy these like sandboxy style games, but they're hard to get to the table because of the length usually.
Yes.
We tried Merchants and Venus. We liked it the first time we played it, not as much the second time. Merchants and Marauders was one that we liked, but again, long game, tough to get to the table, so we kind of punted on that.
Beat me.
That has no relevance to the situation. We found when we talked about last episode on the show, Wasteland Express delivery service, which is really good because it plays quickly, it's streamlined, it's fun.
It's pretty straightforward too.
Yeah. So that's probably the winner. But one of the ones that I was looking forward to for a really long time, because I heard nothing but great things about it when it first came out a couple of years ago, it was Xia Legends of a Drift System. And we backed the game when they did a Kickstarter reprint for a new edition and the expansion. We backed both. People raved about this game. I heard so many people talk about how it replaced Merchant of Venus for them. It replaced Firefly for them. Firefly is another popular one that a lot of folks like to play that's in this genre. It has cool like pre-painted ships that come with it. There's unique ships in the game. It's explorable. Like I said, you start with a very small map that hugely expands as you get bigger. The main aim of the game is to earn fame points, which you get fame by doing almost any of the game's mechanisms, whether it's trading or fighting or exploring or getting lucky on die rolls or doing stuff like this. So it looked like a sure thing.
And we backed it because it came with the expansion, which had a specific two-player variant.
Yes, the original game wasn't suited for two players. They put in a variant that was a very easy variant that just because the expansion adds like the central tile that's in every game, which helps make the map large enough when you start with two players. So we waited a long time. The base game came in first. I tried to get it to the table. Em said, no, let's wait till the expansion comes in. Let's play it right.
But why? Because I don't want to, have a bad taste in my mouth before we get the specific two-player expansion that we got it for.
Right. So we busted out. We're playing a short game. 5 fame points is all you need to win the short game, just to kind of take it for a spin.
You would think it would happen. Bing, bang, boom.
And we started playing, and we were kind of going through the motions, and we were both having a rough go of it because there's a lot of hazards in the game. There's a lot of things you have to fly through that can harm your ship. When early in the game, your defenses are not great. Also, the outlaw NPC ship came out, which is basically a ship that roams around looking to destroy you the player.
Yeah.
Not tough call when you're low on defense and all this other stuff. But I was like, whatever, let's see how it plays out. We finally got to a point where I think one of us, I think it was you.
I got a fame point finally.
You got a fame point. And you earned a fame point, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And I kind of looked at the look on your face. I'm like, you're not really enjoying yourself, are you? And you're like, no. And you're like,
I was like, yeah, and we've been at this for an hour, and I just got my first fame point. You're like, say what?
Yeah. I literally did a double take.
The look on your face was priceless. Like, I wish I had my camera out so I could have taken a picture to show you, because you gave me the what look.
She told me that we had been playing for an hour, and I swear, with the amount of stuff that we had done in the game to that point, and the number of turns that we had taken, I thought we'd only been playing for like 20 minutes.
Nope.
And she's like, nope, it's been an hour. And I'm just like, but we haven't done anything. Like nothing's happened in the game within an hour.
And I told him that's why my face looks like this right now.
and at that point, we packed the game up and we put it on the shelf downstairs
for a trade.
And now it's looking for a different home because Zaya was not for us.
That was, like I said, I think that was our most epic of fails. As far as the Kickstarter has gone.
It's just
it was pretty bad.
It was just disappointing for me because, like I said, it was a space game. I love space, and it looked fun. I liked all the different paths to victory. I like the fact that you
don't get me wrong. It was gorgeous. All the components, everything. It was beautiful, but it just was not for us.
Yeah, so hard pass on Zaya. Like, and I mean, I guess, like, the more you play the game, the better you get at it.
I mean, I feel like we had done so much and achieved so little. You know what I mean?
I didn't feel like we did anything, but like an hour's passed. How's that? Like, I was figuring that game, that fame point game would take like 2 hours max for 5 fame points. Because that's the short game.
It took half that for one.
That's the short game.
Yeah, it was bad.
It wasn't good.
No.
It wasn't good. So we do not recommend Zaya.
Now, the next one on the list, I will recommend. That is Libris.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this game. This one brought it home and said, I got a present for you today. I said, what's this? And I looked and I was like, please tell me this is all about building a library. And he's like, it is. I'm like, yes.
This game,
I'm so very excited.
Libris is pretty cool because you're spending, like Em said, you're building a library, but you are, I mean, would you call yourself magicians, I guess, or something of that ilk? It's like a fantasy-based game. Right.
Well, it depends, because you're not really, you can't say you're a magician because each person that you pick is different.
Right. So at the beginning of the game, you have a library that belongs
within the fantasy realm.
Right. And they come with a special assistant, and each special assistant has so you have your 2 normal workers that you use to put on actions, and then the special assistant has a unique ability that's unique to it.
And a unique little token.
Mm-hmm. And you're trying, like I said, you're trying to build these stacks of shelves that have books on them. But the trick is, when you place the shelves, you're trying to place them in correct alphabetical order.
And furthermore, alphabetically, they're also numbered from 1 to whatever, so you have to put them in the numerical alphabetical order as well.
Right, because at the end of the game, when you evaluate your bookshelves, any cards that don't follow the correct order don't get scored.
Right. So
you have to really be wary of that. And when you place cards, normally you can only place them adjacent to other cards that you place. So you have to really kind of plan ahead. And I also knew that's another reason that Em would like the game a lot, is because of the amount of future planning and puzzliness. And it's kind of like a tiling thing as well in a lot of ways.
And books, because I love books.
Yep. And then the way the game moves forward is that there are these different locations that pop out each round, and the locations have different actions that you can perform on them, and it's a wide variety of stuff. It different ways to get cards, different ways to shelve cards into your stacks.
It can also, I know it might be one of the player abilities where you can actually shift cards in.
No, there was a location that did that as well, that lets you move stuff around or exchange cards in there. So it is a very puzzle heavy game.
Which is why I love it.
Well, and I thought it was great, and we played it with 2, we played it with 4. It worked really well with 4 as well. 2 players, though, it's a nice 45-minute to an hour game, firmly in the medium realm as far as weight goes. This is another one from Renegade Games. That studio is killing it this year, and I said something like that on Twitter, and someone remarked, people are saying that last year too. So Renegade Games really coming on.
They're on a tear.
Really good component quality here. The art is terrific on the game.
Well, they did the Clank ones too, right?
They did, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Art's great. I like also all the bookshelf cards. There's like 150 of these cards.
Oh my god, some of the names on the books on the cards cracked me up. So, I mean, if you get this game, pay attention to the books on the shelf on the card because some of them are hilarious.
Mm-hmm. A lot of references, puns, stuff like that. It's really good. Also, each game there's like 6 different types of books, and there's one that's like a bad color. You're trying to avoid that. Each player's a secret goal of one of the different colors they're trying to get the most of in their library.
And then there's the one bad card every round, every game, and then there's the one like good card that you want to have more of than everybody else.
Well, and the other thing I like too is that you also score points by having like an equal representation of books.
Mm-hmm.
They do like the Knizia scoring because you get a bunch of points per book that you have of the color that you have the least of, basically, not counting the bad color. So I like that. I always like that mechanism. I think it's interesting when you have to kind of build evenly across the things. Well, so like I said, Ex Libris, excellent game. Highly, highly, highly recommended. It's really good, solid, like mid-weight strategy game. Really fun.
Now you're making me want to play it.
It's really good. Like I said, I was really impressed.
If it wasn't so late, I'd say when we're done here, let's go play.
It is too late for that. No, but I was really impressed. Like I said, it looks kind of unassuming, and there's just a lot of variety in the way the game shakes out, and kind of forces you to do the best with what you can with what you got. And you mentioned Clank. We'll talk about Clank because we got the new Clank in Space set. Now, this isn't an expansion for existing Clank. This is actually a brand new version of Clank. The core mechanics are the same. It's a deck building game. You're trying to race down, grab some treasure, and get out.
But the board is vastly different.
There's a few differences. So, like you said, the board hugely different. It's a modular board. There's the main docking area that you start at. There's the ship's core that you have to get to, but in between there are 3 other like parts of the ship, right, that can be variable and they could be placed in different areas. And essentially the difference between them is the map layout for each of them is just slightly different. And the other difference is too, before you can get down to the ship core, you have to like hack into the ship in 2 of the other different areas before the core opens up to you. So that's a little bit different as well. You can't just dive right into the area where... I
really like that, though.
No, well, it adds a little bit of a different...
It makes you plan a little bit more and be a little more careful of what you're actually doing.
Well, and it's something that you have to kind of keep focused on always, because if the other player is quickly hacking and then running in and grabbing one of the artifacts and you're not, you're going to be kind of in a bind because it's going to put down a timetable for you, because as the other player's moving out, you still have to go hack those things and do that stuff. And the hacking spaces are cool too, because you might get a bonus or a penalty depending on which space you decide to place one of your nodes on as well. I also felt like the boss was a little bit more aggressive in this game as well. I feel like that the dragon essentially in this game, I don't remember what the character's name is, a little bit tougher. They also have these bounty hunter cubes, which are red cubes that get put in the bag throughout the game, that if you draw them, each player takes damage, but then they'll go back into the bag when the bag resets again. So they're a threat that you can't get rid of. And then as far as the cards go, the cards are really on the nose as far as the parody aspect. Like, there are a lot of super obvious references to obvious sci-fi tropes and dungeon tropes and things like that. Oh, and also they add factions in this version as well, where some of the cards have a faction associated with them, and they'll give you a bonus if you play other cards of that faction.
Yes.
It's kind of like the class system that you see in Legendary Encounters, and a lot of other games do this too.
Right,
Marvel Legendary is actually probably the first game that really popularized.
Yeah, but it was very cool, because when you get to the point where you're doing your combo-tasticness, if you have that on top of everything else, it's like, whoa.
Well, and it's funny because it's different enough from regular Clank that I'm okay owning both, but I don't know which one I prefer. I don't know that I prefer one over the other, because they both kind of do do the same thing differently enough that they both have merit, I guess.
I think I like the original better.
How come?
Well, I don't know. It just feels more. I get. Well, in space, I guess because maybe it's because they don't have the app for it yet. Because I kind of like that with our original version because I feel like it adds another thing to it, and plus it's got the creepy music, and I feel like I'm a little more under the gun.
Well, for me,
whatever reason,
for me
in
too,
regular
that
Clank.
For me, well, it's because this to me it's like regular Clank is quicker in that. Not that the game is quicker, but it's quicker in that I feel like the game progresses faster because you're just literally going in, smashing and grabbing, and then kind of getting out.
I feel like I'm a little more under the gun with that one because it's just like smash and grab and go.
Right, whereas this one is much more, this
one's more tactical, I think. But
and
I like it. I like it a lot.
Like I said, I thought it was really good. It'll be interesting because with the cool thing with this one, with expansions, it would be very easy for them to just toss in more rooms, basically. Like, you don't have to do a whole new map. You can just toss in a bunch of new rooms and maybe theme those differently and do some different stuff with that. Clank in Space, yeah, if you really like Clank, it's worth picking up. If you are a casual Clank fan, like if you have the regular and you're just like, oh, like this is fine, it's not my favorite.
You probably don't need it.
I don't know that you need to run and get this right away. I think your money would be better invested in getting the Clank expansion if you've not done it yet. And I think there's another one coming too, if I'm not mistaken, for regular Clank.
Yeah.
But we like Clank in Space. It's very, very good. It's more Clank. I mean, that's really all. Really all we could ask for.
This one we just got recently too. Ladder 29.
This was a Kickstarter trick-taking game.
Yes.
But it's a ladder climbing style trick-taking game, meaning that there are, when you play a trick out of your hand, it is one of this one's actually really simple because there's only so many permutations that you can play. Right. With the cards, like you can play a single card, 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, or you can play a run. That's it.
Plus, at the beginning of each hand, you have to take a card from the center that gives you a specific rule you have to follow.
Well, that's the catch with this one. So, like I said, at the beginning of each round, there are a number of cards that are in the middle of the table that you can draft, and the cards not only give you a restriction of some kind, like you can't play single cards this round, or
I had the one where I could only play single cards.
Right. But it also determines how you score in the round as well, because the first player to go out is going to score a certain number of points based on which card they draft. And obviously the harder the restriction, the more points that card is worth. And you get points as long as you're not the last person to go out. The last person to go out scored 0 points, whereas anyone else that goes out beforehand will score something, a diminishing number of points, essentially. And that's kind of where my only issue with the game lies, is because when you're playing with 3 or more people, when 2 people are scoring every round, that makes for a good chase up the scoreboard, basically, because you're trying to get to 29 points. Hence ladder 29. But with 2 players, only one player is going to score every round.
I got trounced.
You did. I don't think you won a single.
I don't think I won a single hand.
Actually, I don't think. And that's kind of it's a little bit of a letdown for a game like that. Like as far as trick-taking games that support 2 players, I like Haggis way more because of the way the scoring works.
Well, in fairness, I think we were sucked in a little bit by the theme.
We were a little bit because it's a firefighter theme. Both of us have firefighters in our families.
Both of our dads are firefighters.
Right. So that got it there. And to be fair, I do think this would be a good game to play with multiple people. It's also good. It's also a good tricky thing.
I don't want to get rid of it, but I think it'll be better if we have people over.
Well, it's because it's easy to teach, right? Because there's not a ton of different combinations. Like Chimera, for example, which we played with my mom.
Your mom would like it.
Well, she's fine playing Chimera. Chimera's a little bit trickier because that has more permutations and more hands that you can make. This one, like I said, there's 5 options, and there's only one kind of trump. Like a 4 of a kind can beat any other hand, basically. So that's the only thing you have to worry about. I don't even want to use that
term anymore.
What?
The Trump suit. I don't want to use that term anymore.
It is that's the only. So it's a simple game to teach, simple game to play. But like the 2-player aspect of it just did not work as well.
I think we should definitely keep it because I think our friends will have fun with it.
Not going to get rid of it. It's just like I said, for 2 players, I think Haggis is the one you got to one you got to go to if you're looking for a trick taking game that you can play.
We haven't played in a while.
It's really good. Ladder 29 is good too, but again, 2 players I don't necessarily recommend.
Last on the list, another Kickstarter, Catacombs and Castles.
Yeah, so this was the one that we bought specifically to have more stuff for
Catacombs.
Regular Catacombs, but there's also a game inside the box as well. Now, whereas Catacombs is a flicking disc dungeon crawl, Catacombs and Castles is a flicking disc 2-player skirmish game. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. It's literally you're taking turns. You each have a number of characters that you're controlling. You have a shared pool of hit points for your team, and you're trying to be the first person to deplete your opponent down to 0. Obviously, each of your characters has unique shots that you can make, but that's all you're trying to do is you're just trying to flick, take turns with your characters, flick your shots, take away your opponent's health, and win. There's not much to it. One thing this game did, though, it's really annoying, is whereas Catacombs comes with these really nice, large, like cardboard, single fold boards that you play on, this one comes with a traditional 4-fold or like 4-panel board, and there's part of the board that wasn't laying flat. So anytime you tried to flick a disc over it, it would flip up or get caught up or something on there. And when it's a game like this, a dexterity game, it's super annoying.
Yeah.
Super annoying. So
how many times did I get screwed because of that?
Well, and me too. Like I had to literally, like every time I shot on that side of the table, I literally had to, put my finger on the board fold so that it would stay down so that you could actually just take a regular shot. That's kind of inexcusable. Yeah. For a game like this. Like that's something you have to,
like, we even tried putting something heavy on there just to flatten it out before we started playing, and it didn't help. Well,
it's just because that is the part of the board where that's not connected, where the 2 sides sit next to each other that aren't binded together, and unless that's just sitting on the same perfectly even plane, it's not gonna, you know what I mean? If you have it on a mat like we have it with our table, that's not gonna fly. That's not gonna work. So the gameplay is fine. The Kickstarter came with some interesting expansions, and most of which are used. That's the brunt of what's used to expand regular Catacombs with. So cool, I guess. Like I said, the game was fine.
It was nothing to write home about, in my opinion.
No,
I'd rather just have the extra stuff for regular Catacombs.
I kind of like if you're going to play this kind of skirmish thing, I feel like Flick 'em Up is just a little bit more fun.
In depth, too, maybe.
Well, a little bit more in depth, but just more fun. Like I said, it's just a more fun game to play, I think, for this back and forth 2-player.
We haven't played that in a while, either.
We haven't. But we probably will play it over this. So, I mean, like I said, I don't dislike Catacombs and Castles, but I'm not saying unless it's worth having to expand your regular Catacombs if you like regular Catacombs, which we do very much. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it's a game that is really necessary to own by itself. There's also a lot of other games that kind of do this. I think Cube Quest, if I'm not mistaken, is one that's like just a 2-player skirmish deal where you have cubes that you flick around and all this stuff. So there are other games that do this and do it well that you could probably get for cheaper because the Catacombs
just play Caveman Curling.
That's not really the same type of thing, but
I'm just saying, you want a fun little dexterity game, play some Caveman Curling.
So that is that's it for Catacombs and Castles. And that also wraps up our new games that we've played. I'll take a short break. When we come back, we will revisit our top 10 2-player game lists. So way back in episode 4, we went over our top...
What are we on now?
52?
Wow.
We went over our top 10 2-player games. These are games that are specifically for 2 players. We've played a lot of new games since then, and we've gotten to check out a lot of games that we hadn't gotten to play that were older, classic games since then. And so I thought it would be as good a time as any, and we'll probably do this with some other lists that we've done and refresh them and go back, make a new list.
See where we are now as opposed to when we were still,
And I got to tell you, so I have our previous top 10 list in front of me, which you guys can go check out.
Different.
There are 2 games from our previous top 10 that have made the cut on these new lists between the two of us too. Like the old top 10 list was a shared list. We have 2 different lists here and only 2 games from that previous list.
But how many do we actually have that match up?
Oh, how much overlap do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that overlap. So we're going to be talking about 15 games in total. We will start at number 10 and move up to number 1. Obviously, we'll do this Dice Tower style. If one of us has it higher on our list than the other one, we'll wait until we get to the higher one to speak about it. So let's get right into it with my number 10, and that is Akrotiri,
which we just played last night.
Yes, we did. This is a really unique. I really like Akrotiri. It's a very unique game. It's a pick up and deliver game where pick up and deliver is not the main objective of the game. It's really more of a means to an end. And instead, what you're trying to do is make these
build temples on
the board, but you have to do it based on patterns that the board makes as you lay tiles throughout the game. It's very puzzly. It's very meaty for a small box 2-player game that it is. This is one of the very nice Z-Man 2-player games that they put out a few years ago. I think it's a little tough to find now. But again, very fun game. Akrotiri, if you like, pick up and deliver, and if you like a little bit of puzzly aspect to your game, this is one you should definitely check out.
Well, my number 10 is higher on your list, so we can't talk about my number 10.
But we will talk about it soon.
Can I do my number 9?
Sure, go for it.
So my number 9 is Claustrophobia, a game that when I first looked at it was like, I don't know about this, hun. And then we played it and I fell in love. I love it. What?
You got to talk about why? You can't say I love it and then not talk about what it is.
Well, I like being the bad guy in these. I mean, is this considered a dungeon?
It is. It's a 2-player specific dungeon crawl game where one player is a bad dude and the other player controls a team of heroes.
You get what, 3 heroes?
3 or 4, yeah.
I couldn't remember the number. But anyway, I'm always the bad guy. And the bad guy can do all sorts of things. Like there's little portals where you can like zip through the tunnel to this side of it. And it seems that I always end up winning because the good guys just don't ever get a chance. It seems kind of one-sided a little bit.
It's not one-sided. I've come close a couple of times. It's neat because Claustrophobia has a number of different scenarios in the box. Playing the bad guy, like Em said, is more interesting because she has a whole board of different abilities that she can do to
that. And I love like my big bad dude. He literally has his foot on the head of one of his little henchmen on his figurine. It's fantastic.
And what's cool too is that the way that actions are assigned in this game is you roll dice and you have to assign each of them to a different hero. Mm-hmm. And as hero takes damage, some of their lines of actions will get like locked out. So it's kind of interesting. You have to make the decision on where you take damage. Cool. Yeah. So your number 9 is Claustrophobia.
Yep. I don't think that was even on the list last time, was it?
It was not. I don't think we had it at that point. My number 9 is higher on Emily's list.
Okay.
So we will have to talk about that. So go to your
number 8.
My number 8 is Odin's Ravens.
Oh, I love this game.
Great 2-player, very quick. It's a race game where you're trying to play cards that match terrain types on this board that gets created. It's a random board every single time because you have these 2-sided cards.
And you got to move your raven up and around.
Yep. And where it gets interesting is you have the Loki cards where you can manipulate the way the terrain is laid out so you can try to hamper with your opponent or make things easier for yourself. Mm-hmm. Very cool game. Game that, you can play many times in a quick sitting and it's a really neat experience. A little bit lighter, but I really like Odin's Ravens and that's why it is number 8.
My number 8 is Santorini. I love this because it's like playing chess with you without getting frustrated.
Yeah. Santorini is probably my favorite abstract game. I'd say.
Because you each get a god card at the beginning of the game, and that's who you are, and you get how many workers?
2.
And you get to build pieces of the buildings and move around, and the object is get to the top of the building. Mm-hmm. But you can block people by putting, what's the top piece?
Just a dome piece, basically.
If you can get a dome piece on that 3rd floor of the building, then you can block people from being able to get on top of that building.
Mm-hmm. And this is a good time to acknowledge that this list, so there are some games on our list that can be played with more than 2, but we were looking at games that are obviously specifically designed for 2 people. And then they might have a 3 or 4 player variant. Santorini is one of those games, but obviously the core experience definitely designed for 2 players. I agree with you too. It's one of my favorite abstracts, but for you, it is number, what is that, 8?
Yes. Okay, so my number 7 is, okay, not on your list. Good. My number 7 is Targi. What? I'm excited that I get to talk about something. So Targi is
kind of worker placement, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. It's kind of odd. You have the, what is it, 9 cards in the board. Mm-hmm. And you have to place your workers
on the outside of the board,
right? To
get a small benefit, but then you're trying to make a cross section to claim certain cards in the middle,
right? To make it better for yourself. And then there's the thief that goes around the board. Is it the thief?
No, I mean that's just on the corners when you're going around the little round markers, basically. Or there's some that bars certain spaces from being landed on, stuff like that.
But yes, Targi is a fun little, worker placement / resource gathering. Yeah, resource gathering, set collection kind of thing. It's one of those ones we bought and we really liked it. I think this was one that was out of print for a while. You were looking for it, wasn't it? It was out of print
for a super long time.
and it finally came.
They finally reprinted it, yeah.
So, but yeah, Targi, I like it.
You're number 7.
Number 7.
My number 7 is higher on Emily's list.
Ooh.
So we will mention that later. So allow me to move on to my number 6. This is another one of those can be played with more than 2, but the base experience is meant for 2 players, and that is Puzzle Strike, specifically Puzzle Strike 3rd edition. I love me some Puzzle Fighter. I love me some deck building.
You just love it because it's Street Fighter.
No, I love Puzzle Fighter. Puzzle Fighter is a great game. I wish that they would make a real version, not the crap mobile version that they just came out with all sorts of grindy free-to-play nonsense.
Is that the one I just found on my iPad
it is.
That our son opened up, and I'm like, why is there Street Fighter music on my pad?
Don't play it. It's really bad. But if you take Puzzle Fighter and you take Dominion and you mash the 2 together, that is what Puzzle Strike is. Love this game. Love the strategy involved. I love the wildly varying strategies that are going to, differ based on which character you choose, based on what chips are available to buy with the puzzle chips. The satisfaction of crashing a 4-gem that's uncounterable onto your opponent's side and burying them in gems is fantastic. I don't even care that we played this game wrong for the first 3 years that we had it.
We did?
Oh, yeah. I told you that, didn't I?
No.
Yeah, we totally played a particular aspect of it incorrectly.
Oh. I blame you. You're the rules guy.
I blame me, too. But that's how good Puzzle Strike is. I love Puzzle Strike. It's a fantastic game, one of my favorite deck builders, and it is my number 6.
It's also why we bought an insert.
It is, and bought the big expansion for it too. So yeah, my number 6 is Puzzle Strike 3rd edition.
My number 6 is, I don't know, how do you say it? Is it
Sola Fide?
Is it Fide or Fide? Sola Fide, Sola Fide, the Reformation. One of these ones we kind of picked up. It was kind of an odd.
Oh, I had my eye on this one when it came out. I remember.
No, it was kind of just a different theme, different than anything else we have. I don't know really how to describe it. You're better at this than me.
Well, it's also sort of a hand management game where you're trying to claim these different battleground tiles that are on the board by swaying, between Catholicism or
but you have a hand of cards.
I think Protestantism. I think is the other. Protestant's the other side of it. I think
so.
I can't remember.
All I know is it's what's his name? Martin Luther.
Yeah.
Yes, Martin Luther. But yeah, it's one of those ones which kind of like, hello, let's give this a shot, and it's pretty good. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the fighting with you, honestly, over the tiles, because I mean, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, and I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. Like, some of the cards are like, oh, hey, you know, and actually some of the cards are one-time use, and some of the cards are something like a always-on ability until it gets used, or until somebody else puts one on, kind of a thing. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. The only thing that I didn't like is I think the last time we played this, didn't we literally tie with points?
I think we did, actually, yeah.
Because I think we claimed like the exact tiles that we needed to both score the same amount of points.
Yeah, it did work out that way.
It was bad. Because I don't count ties as a win or a loss. Or, it's just,
well, they're not. They're a tie. Yeah.
No, but you always say, oh, well, there's a tiebreaker. No.
It's a moral victory.
Tiebreakers, no, don't work for me.
So yeah, that's your number 6. I like Sola Fide because you build a unique deck of cards every game, because there's out of 45 cards that are available to you, you're only going to use 15 each game, so you can kind of craft your deck before the game starts. Very cool that way as well. What is your number 5? Your number 5 was my number 7.
My number 5 is Battle Lore 2nd Edition. I love this game. You weren't sure about this when you first got it. You're like, she's either going to love it or hate it, and then I turned out to love it. Nice little. I guess this one's a skirmish on the map.
This is a evolution of the command and color system that was first introduced in Memoir 44.
But yes, you each have an army. You can use a pre-made army, or you can muster your own army based on a certain number of points. I forget how many exactly. But you can, get your army together. You set up based on the card you get for that scenario, and then try and get the victory points before your opponent does. And try and kill them in the process, which is fun.
And the reason why I like this one too is, like Em said, the ability to customize your army is great. I also like the lore cards.
And that's the thing, like, I wasn't so much into that at first. I was using the pre-made ones, but then as we started playing it and I liked it more and I kind of understood how certain ones worked, I was like, okay, I can do this.
I mean, the lore cards, I think, are what makes this over other games in the genre, because the lore cards are magic spells, basically, that you get that can swing the balance of power.
Oh, absolutely.
One direction or the other. And those are kind of key to victory, for sure. So yeah, I had this at number 7.
I have this as my number 5.
This was number 5 on our previous list as well. It's one of the 2 games that did still carry over. And like I said, we like it more and more. We have all the expansions because Fantasy Flight put them on Uber clearance, which means we're probably not getting any more expansions, but such is life.
That's okay. I think we've got enough to keep us busy for a while.
We've got 3 full armies and a bunch of neutral characters and tons of scenarios and all this stuff. So we think
we are good.
We will be busy with Battle Lore for many, many years to come.
Actually, that was when we got the claustrophobia expansions too, wasn't it?
It was. So yeah, your number 5, my number 7, Battle Lore 2nd Edition.
And your number 5 was my number 10.
Oh, we're on number 5. Yeah, that's correct. My number 5 was M's number 10. I've lost it.
You're having a moment there.
This is Jaipur, a.k.a.
Camel.
The set collection market manipulation game, which is a classic. This was actually our number 1 game when we did this list the last time.
Oh, how far we've come.
It has fallen a little ways, but I still think Jaipur is fantastic.
It's one of those ones, if we're ever going on a trip somewhere, we always take it with us.
It's portable. Like the thing that gets you, it's obviously, the market manipulation is fun, but the thing that really swings it is having the point tokens that you get for turning in sets of 3, 4, 5 cards. That's what's gonna swing the balance in the game. I love the feeling of your opponent putting down a card that you want and then snatching it right off the table as soon as they do on your turn, and watching them get very upset with you as they're gunning for certain stuff that they're looking for. Jaipur is great. Highly recommend this one. Can't speak highly enough about it. It's my number 5. It's your number 10, and it was our number 1 last time. Like I said, it has fallen a little ways, but it's still great. Jaipur.
We've just, we've diversified a little more, that's all.
I will pass number 4 to you because my number 4 is slightly higher on your list.
It's my number 3. Well, my number 4 was your number 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was Baseball Highlights 2045. Again, another one of these ones you can play with multiple players, but at its core, like Brad said before, it's specifically designed for 2 players because, I mean, how many times do you have 4 baseball teams in one game? Seriously? Like, come on. But basically, each of you has a team, a hand of cards. You play them. You try and score runs each round. And, whoever scores the most wins.
The reason that I love this game so much is the deck building aspect. It's a unique deck building game in that you build your deck in between games, and you only change it because you have a 15 card deck. It's very small, but you only tweak it by adding maybe a card or two
if you can afford it,
and finding that balance in that deck. Like, do you want a deck that has that's very defensive in nature to prevent your opponent from scoring? Do you want a deck of mashers that you can?
Do you want ones that are just going to score?
Right, great pitching decks. Do you also want cards that early on you have to be careful because typically the better cards give you less buying power later in the game, so you really have to balance out having cards that get your money.
Also, you have to plan for later on, depending on how many games you're playing in the series. You have to plan to see how your opponent is building their deck, so you can plan defensively around that. Because certain cards are better against cyborgs or human players or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's such a great game. So many different players available that do.
And they had a Baltimore team, so we couldn't not get it.
Yeah, Baseball Highlights is just excellent. Number 9, again, still in my top 10, but you have it all the way up at number 4.
It's because we always have so much fun when we play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one that we play.
We bust it out, and we're just like, we sit there and we laugh at some of the stuff that happens.
That tension too, and like the tension of playing like a big card that will have like 2 home runs on it, and you wait to see if your opponent's going to counter.
Oh my god, is he gonna? No. Okay, we're good.
Mm-hmm. So very cool.
What is yours?
We're up to number 3. You could talk about number 3. This was my number 4.
What was your number 4?
Thunder and Lightning.
Oh, okay.
Which is where we're at right now. We're number 3.
Well,
number 3.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at yours, and we got everything. We got too many. There's too many stars on the board, honey. Too many stars on the board. Okay, my number 3 is Thunder and Lightning. Another one of these little 2-player. I don't know who made this. Was this?
This is Richard Borg as well. This is.
Was it a Z-Man box or no?
It is, but it's designed by Richard Borg, who did Battle Lore. So.
No wonder we like it.
He's showing up a lot here.
But basically, one of you's Thor, one of you's Loki. You have, your hand of cards. Each of you has an artifact card that the other one's trying to snatch. And then you build your tableau of cards in front of you accordingly to try and block them and make them lose cards and whatnot.
Mm. This is the game that made it slightly better that Emily did not like Android Netrunner. This gives me that fix, that feeling.
Really?
But it's a game that you like. Well, because this has the bluffing.
Oh, because you're looking at like some of the stuff like ice and all that.
Yeah,
kind of
that's what it is. I mean,
okay.
This game has the bluffing aspect. It has the playing the cards face down. So
before you go any further, no.
Well, no, I'm not saying that we need to get. I have no idea what's going on in Netrunner right now. I'm so many sets removed that it's impossible.
Saying, no, I'm not like before you say, "Oh, honey, I found one real cheap on the BGG, thing." No.
But listen, if you're a fan of Android Netrunner and your partner will not play that game with you, get this instead.
Stop. It's not that I wouldn't play. Is that I only like playing one side. I didn't want to play both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just, like I said, I love the bluffing. I love the... And it's fun because this is another one of those games.
Plus, I didn't want to actually deck build. That was the other thing, because that kind of takes away from it.
Right. And this is one of those games, Thunder and Lightning, if you play it enough, it can kind of develop that metagame aspect where you, like, if you play the same person over and over again, you'll know what they like to do.
I will never forget. We had one game where we're sitting there and, did I play a Raven card? Raven your hand. And I was just, and he had just picked up a couple of new cards. So I throw down this Raven. I said, I'm Raven in your hand.
Rain HQ is what I like to call it.
I went and I plucked this card out of his hand and I flipped it over and it was the card that I needed to win. And he's like, son of a, I just drew that. Like, he was so mad.
It's very fun. It's why it's number 4 for me. We speak highly about this game all the time. It's Thunder and Lightning.
The last time
great.
we played, I remember he kept trying to run my hand, and it was literally the last card I drew in my deck.
You're even using Netrunner terminology now. Look at that.
What?
Run my hand is a Netrunner term.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be good because I really almost dropped the F-bomb there. Moving on.
The problem is my number 3 is higher on your list. So we'll have to talk about that.
Go to your number 2 then.
Well, it's our number 2 because we both have this game at number 2.
Okay.
And that is Seven Wonders Duel.
That's because it's a fantastic
Seven
game.
Wonders Duel is a fantastic game. I love Seven Wonders Duel. I don't know why future copies of Seven Wonders should even ship with that terrible 2-player variant that it comes with. Because it should have a card in there that says, hey, do you want to play this 2 players? Then go get Seven Wonders Duel, because the 2-player variant that we originally designed is awful. That's what they should do. I love the pyramid design for the cards that makes certain, limits your choices as far as what cards you can draft.
And each round too. I love it.
And it changes up. Yeah, it's very, very interesting that way. I like the threat of the instant win conditions, even though they very rarely ever happen.
I think we've only ever had it happen once, right?
It's happened a couple times. It's happened a few times. Science has only happened once. Military's happened a couple of times.
It was science one, wasn't it?
Yeah, military's happened a couple times. But the fact that it's there forces you to respect it, and it forces you to play around that.
I was going to say, you can't just say, I'm going to do this, 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 and this.
Right, you can't ignore military completely. You can't ignore science completely, even though those aspects are the least powerful branches in the game. You can't ignore them because of the instant win possibility that those run into.
Absolutely.
I love how the wonders work in this one, much more uniquely than they do in Seven Wonders, where you draft wonders at the beginning of the game. They have special powers. It's great. This is a great 2-player game. It's why it's number 2 for both of us. It's just swell. You should absolutely get Seven Wonders Duel. If you like it, go get the expansion. The expansion
is cool because you get the gods and all that kind of fun stuff. Oh, it's so much fun. So much fun.
So that's our joint number 2. Well, I'll do my number 1 first because inexplicably this game is not on your list, and I'm aghast. Even though kind of this game is number 1 on your list, but the true inspiration. Okay,
so the light version of this game is my number 1. Okay, yes. How about that? Can we agree on that?
Yes. Okay. I, of course, am talking about the GOAT, the best.
The GOAT. We're not talking about Chris Jericho.
The greatest of all time.
No.
The best. My favorite 2-player game, Twilight Freakin' Struggle. Tell me how great Twilight Struggle is.
It's great if we have 2.5 hours.
It is, but man, is that ever a 2.5 hours when we do get the chance to play it?
Except for the one time that I got the insta win.
That is fine though, because that,
I couldn't believe it.
I deserved it. But yeah, Twilight Struggle, the Cold War 2-player card action battle game. It's fantastic. I love it. It's just so dang good.
Funny.
And it gets better the more you play because you learn what
I love
cards.
That you're so goofy.
Well, it's fine. Because you learn what cards come out when, you learn what to look out for, and it's a game that gets better the more skilled you get at it, and it's just a ridiculously good time.
One of these days I'm gonna get that card and I'm actually gonna come over and poke you in the chest.
The kitchen debate card? Yes. And this also kind of got scratching the bug to learn more about that era in history.
Well, that's the thing. Like I have enjoyed like certain games that we've gotten that are historically based. And I mean, I was never big on history or anything like that. But, these kind of got me interested. I'm like, let me look into this a little bit and, understand a little more.
But yes, Twilight Struggle, it is my number 1, despite the fact that Emily does not even have it in her top 10. Inconceivable, I say. Because you're number 1, I have at number 3.
Yeah. My number one is 13 Days, the Cuban Missile Crisis, which we often refer to as Twilight Struggle Light.
Because it is.
Because it gives you that same experience in, less than half the time, probably. But yeah, another one. Historically based. You know, there's, 3 rounds in the game. Each round, you have your card that you're working towards so you can score points. You have your hand of cards to play to put cubes on the board. And, yeah.
Well, the thing I like too, and the reason why this ranks so high is because like I said, we can knock a game out of this in half an hour. I also like the thing that with 13 Days that differs in Twilight Struggle, and I guess this mirrors the delicate situation that was the Cuban Missile Crisis, is you really have to manage that DEFCON track. Like in Twilight Struggle,
oh my god!
In Twilight Struggle, the DEFCON track is more of a deterrent to doing stuff.
So in this one, I remember the last game that we played just a couple weeks ago. I mean, we were both
right up to the brink, basically.
Both right up to the rim of DEFCON, and we're like, "How the hell are we going to get this back down?"
But for this, that's part of the game is taking it to the brink and maximizing your actions, but still keeping it from going over.
It was so bad though. Like, man, I was sweating bullets.
Well, and that's where the tension comes in.
I was sweating bullets that last time. I'm like, am I going to make it, or am I going to, have this happen? Because
and like I said, even with the small scale board, the bluffing aspect is fantastic because of the multiple possible objectives that each player has available to them every round. So you can use that knowledge that your opponent has to your advantage as well. It's a great game. Like I said, it's fantastic. I have it at number 3. For you, it's number 1. And it's great. It's a great game. And yeah, certainly it gets to the table a lot more just because of the length, and I understand why you have it up there. And yes,
it's a fantastic game.
So that is our top 10. Like I said, I think we said 15 unique games between the two of us on that list. So that's a pretty good. There's
our number 1 from last time was Jaipur.
Yes, number 1 was Jaipur. I'm surprised we didn't have more overlap, actually. Even like 5's a lot, but I mean, I was surprised that we didn't have.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the games we don't even have anymore.
Oh, you're looking at our previous list?
Yes.
Yeah, you were right about that. 4 games we don't have, and one. And yeah, like I said, a lot of games just. For some reason, once we found some other stuff, they sort of fell off. So hugely different lists from episode 4.
Some of the other ones, I feel like we have to really be in the mood to play them as well.
I agree. I feel like, and the thing with this list here too, a lot of these games we've had for several years now at this point, and I don't see any signs. So like I think if we did this list again in another 2.5 years, there'd probably be a lot more consistency.
Yeah.
Between the two lists, I feel like, because I feel like we're a little bit more entrenched.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, but I had a lot of fun going back through those. I couldn't believe listening to the old episode to get the old list.
I was laughing the other night when we were sitting there and you're telling me what our old top 10 was, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's very, very wildly different.
I'm looking at my list as you're going through it. What made me laugh most of all was that our number 5 was my number 5. And I was like, well, at least I got one of them right.
Yeah, it's maintained same exact position in your mind. So this is something that now that we've been doing this podcast for a couple of years and we've done this a while, this is something that we will probably go back and do more frequently. We'll go back and revisit some of our old lists that we've made, make new ones. And in most cases, because the amount of games that we've played and our tastes have diverged enough that we'll probably do separate lists each time, because I feel like it is going to be a little bit different.
Well, now we can do separate lists because I feel more comfortable now with my knowledge of a lot of this stuff, even if I'm not so knowledgeable as you can hear me bumbling going over games, because Brad's like the rules guy and everything else and setup. But I mean, I feel more comfortable now to express my opinions on things, where before I was like, I don't want to sound like dumb. You know what I mean? Does it make sense?
It does make sense. Very much so.
So,
but that's it for us. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Don't forget to also check out
we promise not to take another 2.5 month hiatus.
No, it's not gonna be 2.5 months. Like I said, we might not be able to quite get back to every other week again quite yet, but
Yeah,
but
with
we
the
will be
holidays and
here a little
everything.
more frequently than we were the last time. End of the year's coming up soon, which means that we probably will revisit.
We'll do Game of the Year.
Game of the Year stuff, our superlatives. Or sorry, what is it? Our
I don't remember what it was.
Seals of excellence or something like that.
Seals of approval.
Yeah, seals of approval.
Something seals of approval.
I can't remember what it is. We'll remember when we get back to next time.
Enthusiastic seals of approval.
That's right.
That's what it was.
That's what it was. I was about to say like the Montgomery Birds, what is it? The Montgomery Board first annual award for excellence in the field of achieving excellence or something, or whatever that was. I can't remember the exact.
It was on the other day.
And don't forget to check out the other.
We're dorks, in case you guys didn't know.
Yeah, don't forget to check out the other TNP Studio shows, including their Apocalypse, Dense Pixels, Black on Black Cinema, Look Forward, Premium Network, all that other stuff. So check it out. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you guys are glad to hear us. We will talk to you in a few weeks again.
See ya.